Greetings y saludos a todos. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the PGP podcast. Hey, Josh the Watt, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, ISD. Garland, USA, ready to learn again with another fabulous A-plus show with these guests from different parts. We got the west side, we got the east side, and we got the Valley of Texas going on right here. Nothing but the best out there. All the shows, all 42, including this one right here, is top-notch talent, bringing in the nuggets. Those nuggets. I'm not talking about chicken nuggets. I'm talking about knowledge nuggets that all of us can use right now. But hold on. I need to bring in someone who brought me an ostrich. She has been MIA in Africa, in Tanzania, where they speak Swahili. And so, talk to us. Don't spend a long time. How did it go?
Josh, I'm so sorry that I missed you for 2 episodes, but let me tell you, Josh, it was such an amazing experience. I took 2 educators with me to Tanzania, and it was an amazing experience. I'm sorry I brought you just a little small ostrich, but I saw many of them, many giraffes and many elephants just outside the school. So it was amazing. I had a great time. And as I said earlier, check out my post on @newcomersuccess. And I'm going back in July. So please DM me and let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And that's a great idea for those of you that are adventurous and do not mind playing with alligators and lions out in the Serengeti. So if you like doing that kind of stuff, that's the lady to call. And then tell the people what you did afterwards. Dr. Moreno, where did you go right after?
So after my trip to Tanzania and after I got my educators safely back on a plane to the United States of America, I decided to go to yet my 14th country. I went to Istanbul. I learned a lot about the old city, the new city. And you know what, Josh? It's amazing how, our country is very different today. We have a new president and everything's going on. So listening to another country who's having, refugees from, they still have, the remnants of the Syrian refugees that came into Turkey. It was really interesting to kind of hear stories about how they're coping and how they're managing that. So, yeah, enjoyed that. When I go in July, I'm going to either Rwanda or Mozambique. Always adding to my collection of countries visiting.
Very cool. I like it. Hey, Dr. Moreno, just a quick thought, because I want to throw this out there and to the panel. You're about to come on in a couple of minutes real quick. Hey, what song this week pushed you and motivated you? Hey, audience, right now, when I put the chat on, let us know what was your song this week. For me, it was Burning Like a Flame by Dawkins. Why that one? Because I was doing bus duty in 16-degree temperature. It was cold. Yeah, don't laugh at me, Wyoming. 16 degrees is horrible for us. All right. Hey, Michigan, 16 degrees is horrendous in Texas. And I was standing out there for 30 minutes greeting our kids in Turkish, in Swahili, in Spanish, Vietnamese. They were waiting there. But let me tell you, this Mexican froze. So the song I kept playing on my music, I have it like a little the YouTube on a speaker outside, was Burning Like a Flame. What about you, Dr. Moreno? Give me one song that inspired you this week.
You know what? I'm going to say Can't Stop Believing. Just because I couldn't believe I was in Tanzania for my second time. So, it was amazing. I loved it. And it was a good song for me to listen to it over and over and over again.
All right. And for the Chinchilagua moment right now, is making sure that I talk about something. In Wyoming, they're like, Chinchilagua, what's that? South Carolina, she's looking at me like, Chinchilagua, how do you eat that? Medium raw, cooked? How do you do that? You see, Chinchilagua is a game played by Mexicans. And hey, Fonz, you got to tell me right now if Guatemaltecos or Hondureños play this game. But what we do when we get families together, we line up in a big wall or up against a tree. And you get your cousins, your uncles, younger uncles, sometimes the older uncles, and you jump on each other's back and you say, Chinchilagua arriba, boy, and you yell and you say something and you jump on. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt, until your little cousin falls off and cracks his head open. Then it's all over. Hey, you know what? Teaching is fun. Education is one of the best things, especially out there when the kids show you the pop. You know what I'm talking about, Mari? When the kids learn something new from you, pop. That's kind of like when you go to a concert and the the lights all turn off, and everyone knows that the main band is about to hit, everyone screams, ah, pop, because we know that we're gonna see a performance that lights our spirit. That's why we went to go pay $7,000 because of all the extra fees they charge us for one ticket. And so when we go to these concerts, you could see more often than not the artist performing with love, with passion. And so I want to remind our team members right now that, yeah, we're about to hit that second wall. The first
Yeah.
wall was in November to December. Right now it's about to hit the state testing wall where
Yes.
people, everyone gets frazzled. Everyone gets out of their norm. Hey guys, don't forget what Dave Burgess says. You have to teach your content. You're teaching kids first, then content. Don't forget to, when you are delivering instruction, to do it with passion, to do it just like, oh my, I was just gonna mention Prince. Oh, did you see Prince the way he would do it? Or the Rolling Stones, the way, the passion that it is out there. So Dave Burgess in his books, Teach Like a Pirate, says you don't have to dress like a pirate to do that. You don't have to do that. You just have to have that wherewithal to engage people. Because you know what? Ultimately, what are we fighting, educators? We're fighting this right here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not engaging with these kids, you know what they're gonna do? You don't understand, guys. A lot of people are not gonna understand. There's a thing known as a click, a remote control, not no longer
Mm-hmm.
the old school one, and the kids are just gonna turn you off. So teach like a pirate. Don't dress like a pirate, but have a passion when you're delivering your instruction. And you know what? What that does when you're in the middle of a performance, you feel all hyped up. And that lesson will be nothing but burning fire at the end of the day. Because we all know when you teach that lesson first period, it's kind of rough, right? The
Yeah.
confidence kicked in. When you teach that lesson after third period, you know you're getting it. By the end of the day, those students, if you performed it well, are getting the best out of you. So don't just go there to teach a content, go there to teach students and make sure you engage them with that performance. And I'm not talking about getting dressed all crazy like
Mhm.
Dave Burgess. I'm just saying be there enthusiastic with a smile and making sure that they want to see you perform. And in this case, it's delivering instruction. What do you think, Dr. Moreno?
Oh my God, Josh. You know what? And this is a time that it's really hard. I mean, we're talking about February, March. We're looking at spring break already. And so it is a very tough time. So you're absolutely right. I love the fact that this is such good timing to talk about this topic, because you know what? Kids know when you're faking it too. So, you know, when you're walking up there and you're on the spotlight, if you're not really highlighting and really engaged, then your kids are going to pick up on that. So awesome, awesome word of advice, words of wisdom from El Jefe right here. So super excited. Thanks a lot for reminding everybody of how important it is to teach with passion, because it is our kids, and the more you teach and the more you engage the kids, the better they're going to learn, right? So do it right the first time.
Exactly. And remember, adults, when you guys go to PD at central office and they're just talking to you and reading to you from a PowerPoint, how do you act?
Exactly.
How do you behave? You start taking out your cell phone just like the kids do. I'm
Mhm.
just saying. I'm just saying. So part of that motivation is a flashback episode 32, the Happy Show. Hey, next week we're gonna have the Happy Show number 2, but we had Lainey Rao, Brandy Godino, Chaz Perez, the boss was here, and next week, if you haven't seen the lineup, another all stars here. But you know what? Today we have a great panel, an A+ panel of instructional coaches that do nothing but breathe success into our team members at every single last campus. Welcome, panel. Welcome to the PGP podcast, episode 42. Dr. Moreno, take it away.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm super excited to have you guys on the show. Let me tell you, we are excited to hear from all of you. But in order for the audience to know who we are, we got to first introduce ourselves. So I'm going to start off with you, Dana. Tell the audience about yourself. What is your current role in or out of education? Give the audience a brief summary of the different roles you served while in education, and which one was your favorite and why?
Thank you. My name is Dana Williams. I bring you greetings from South Carolina on the East Coast. I'm currently the director of secondary math and science for Chester County School District. So in my 26 years of education, I've been a math teacher, I've been a STEAM coach, I've been a assistant principal, and now I am the director of secondary math and science. If I had to choose my favorite position, it would have been the current position I'm in, the director of secondary math and science, because I get to support math and science teachers the way I should have been supported when I was a teacher.
Ooh, snap, snap with that. I love it. You're doing what other people didn't do to you, right? And so that's awesome. I'm glad that you have turned that around for other people. Casey, how about you?
Hey there. Thanks for having me on. I'm Casey Schertz. I'm an instructional facilitator at Sage Valley Junior High in Gillette, Wyoming. I was a classroom teacher for 20 plus years. I taught social studies and web design. I also had the opportunity to be an assistant principal at a bilingual school in Concepcion, Chile. Um, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Shirts and Ties podcast. My favorite job is the one I'm currently doing. I'm really loving working with adults and helping support adults and in classroom instruction.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey. And I hope you talk a little bit more about that Chile trip there.
Sure, yeah.
How about you, Les?
Hi, my name is Les Harris. I'm currently the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program Coordinator. It's a mouthful. At a Coronado High School here in El Paso, Texas. I've been an instructional specialist my background science. Before that, I was teaching science with dual credit and IB biology courses. I've also served as assistant principal for middle school and elementaries, and I think each one has their own little perks to it. Like they all have their little funness, I guess. So it's hard to kind of pick which one was my favorite, but I think this one is right now, just because I really love the school I'm at and the kids and families that I'm working with.
Awesome. And remind me, what's your current role again?
International Baccalaureate Diploma Coordinator.
You're the IB coordinator. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Glenn?
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's already 6 o'clock, right?
It is.
So good evening, everybody. I'm Glenn Nathan. I'm in El Paso also. I am currently the Director of Board and Superintendent Development for the Texas Education Agency. I've had roles ranging from a superintendent in a small rural district, an assistant superintendent in a large urban district. I've been an instructional coach for all core curriculum, leadership and accountability consultant at an educational service center. And I started my journey in education as a secondary social studies teacher and athletic coach. I've loved every role I've had along the way. And my favorite role is the one that I occupy right now because it's really about the opportunity to coach adults to set the conditions for systems to operate and do the best for kids. And that's where I feel like I'm able to leverage the opportunity of influence for the positive of students.
Awesome. Thank you. And things are changing really fast right now. So love to hear some of that as well during our podcast, because there's so many people out there that are very interested in hearing what is the new horizon looks like, right? And Alfonso.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for the invite. My name is Alfonso Mendoza. I am the coordinator for digital learning here in the school district in South Texas, furthest south that you can get, in the McAllen area, which is known as the South Pole of Texas. So that is where I currently reside in this area. Been teaching in education for 18 years. I am a transplant because I didn't start off in education, but I fell into education 18 years ago and I absolutely fell in love with everything. And I love the current role that I'm in, although I have served as a high school algebra teacher. I have also served as an elementary science, math, and social studies teacher as well for 11. So I was in 11 years in the classroom and then 8 years in this role. And by far, this is one of my favorite roles to have, again, working with our teachers, bringing innovative practices and finding that right balance between technology and, proper pedagogy to help students succeed. So really excited to be here and, share some knowledge like Josh says.
Awesome. And you know what? Let me tell you, there's a lot of, since you talked about tech, I hope you bring up some of the AI stuff, because there's a lot of folks out there that are really worried about or concerned, about AI. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about that during the segment as well, because so many things are changing today. But I'm excited. There's your expertise. I'm like writing some of these notes down because I think it's important for people to see what roles that we serve in. And so I really do appreciate that we have such a wide array of different backgrounds. So Josh, take it away.
Fonz, you got to tell them what else. I learned from that cat right there. Tell them about that other little thing that you do with over 300.
Oh, yes. I'm also the host of the My EdTech Life podcast. So been doing it for 5 years. It'll be 5 years in April. We have done 314 episodes and almost 100,000 downloads in those 5 years. So it's just been very exciting and awesome, having Josh as one of my guests too, as well, with some of the most memorable principal sound bites. It's fantastic. So been doing that too as well.
So I love it. Awesome. Hey, welcome, Dodd McKeever Jeter, part of the Fantastic Four. Remember, we are the bookend of the Fantastic Four with Coach Hurd at 10 o'clock, 10:30, Shika Houston, who's in the house from South Carolina, who is a Gamecock fan, Dana. Just saying. And Dr. Tammy Taylor, also from South Carolina, and the Jefe, Principal Cafele. That's Super Saturday, but we close off the Fantastic Four with PGP Podcast. And Melissa Joes Chunu from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you for being here. Hey, let's peel that onion a little bit back, Casey. You don't have to go that much into debt, but what motivated you? You know that we have an exodus, a huge exodus of educators right now, administrators and classroom team members. And a lot of alt-certs doubt, I don't want to get in there. I don't know if I'm qualified. Tell people what motivated you or who motivated you specifically to become an educator.
So I can tell you two people in my life that made an absolute difference. One was the way I grew up was tough. I grew up poor, went through some things as a kid, and I had a fourth grade teacher who saw the best in me, celebrated any successes I had, and made me feel like I belonged as a student in that class and that I was capable and good at the work, doing the work. So from that point forward, I was a good student. It was largely because of Mr. D, Mr. Dennison, Mr. Donut. That was my fourth grade teacher. And then I had a college professor who was a history teacher at the time. I was an accounting major, and that was awful. I hated it, but I took a surveys history course with Dr. Flam at Ohio Wesleyan University. And after one day in that class, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be that guy. And so I switched I went to my advisor and I said, I want to switch. I want to be a history major and I want to teach history.
Love it. History nerd right here with you, brother. Much love, much love. Fonz, soon to be Doc Fonz, go.
So for me, just really what inspired me to be a teacher, I think it was very similar to what Dana spoke about and what Casey just mentioned is the way that I grew up, immigrant parents. I was the language broker. It was very difficult for me, and being an only child too, mind you. So my parents always just said, hey, you know what, do something with yourself. We don't want you to be working outside, in the hot sun, in the fields or doing odd jobs. So please just get your education. I went to college, following that dream of, hey, I want to make a lot of money, take care of my family. So I went into business and finance, did that for 2 years. And then there was one of those fork in the road moments. My dad kind of got ill, and being an only child, you have to be there and help your parents out. So I sought a job that would give me a little bit more time to make sure that I can be there, to take care of my parents. And that's where I landed in education. But the job, the way that I got that job was seriously, honestly, I think there's definitely a divine hand in it, because when I went and did my interview, there was a former teacher from my high school there, whose also teacher was, or whose wife was my teacher as well. I went in, as soon as I turned the corner, Dr. Guerra, he just says, oh, it's you. And he knew me right away. He remembered my face. 10-minute interview, said, come back tomorrow, sign your paperwork. And I officially became a math teacher. And so I'm very thankful for that, because it was just, like I said, almost that divine intervention. But then it just felt like I was where I needed to be to help students in my situation, help them, like Dana said, treat them educate them, and bring something to them that I felt was missing for myself. And that's how I landed in education. And now, like you mentioned, soon to receive my doctorate too as well. So the education never stopped.
Eso. Did you hear that voice? That's why that cat has over 300 episodes. He just gets you in there, man. I love that guy right there. Glenn, talk to us.
You know, I had no intention of being in education. My mom was a teacher, and my mom just really emphasized the value of education. So I knew schooling, learning, professional growth was critical. And when I graduated from college, I had I was pre-med, taking my MCAT, and I said, I'm going to work for 1 year and apply to medical school because I just need to decompress a little bit from that experience. And I had two great people in my life that pushed me and said, "You're a teacher, Glenn. That's your calling. That's your passion. You just don't know it yet. You haven't accepted it yet. You've been tutoring people in college. That's how you were making your money on the side." And I said, "That's the dumbest thing in the world. I'm not going into education. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to make a difference in people's lives as a doctor." And they convinced me. I applied for the job. I got the teaching job, and right away I was coaching, and I saw what a difference I could make in the life, not just of a student, but of others, of their parents, of their younger siblings, of the system, and the opportunities that it affords. And I said, I'm going to do this one more year and one more year. And 20 years later, I'm sitting on your podcast as an educator, and I couldn't be happier with the decision I made.
Eso, love it. Awesome story. Dana, talk to us.
Well, for me, math was always my passion. So I grew up loving math. Even in high school, I would help my friends out. In my physics class, the teacher didn't know what he was doing, so I had to help my students, my classmates teach physics because I told them it's just a formula, just substitute it in. So I assisted with that. So I'm a first generational college student. So I went to Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina on a 4-year scholarship. And when I graduated, I went back to the high school that I graduated from, and I got to teach with Miss Touchberry, who was one of my former math teachers. So it was an honor for me to go back and teach. So Miss Touchberry was like a person who inspired me. The way she taught, she had patience with her students, even though some of them, needed extra help. And I just enjoyed working there. So I did go back and teach at the high school that I went to.
What a great story. So, hey, alt-cert person out there, you could go back and teach with your teacher that taught you. That's something right there. Let's go. Let's close this out.
So similar story to Glenn, I guess. I didn't think teaching was going to be for me. And when I was working, I love science, right? So I was a science major, did everything, and I didn't know what to do with my life. So I continued school, went into get my master's in biology. And part of it was I had to teach labs, right? So that was how I earned money as a graduate student, was teaching these labs. And I really enjoyed teaching science and teaching others and teaching people. And I found myself like changing things around to make it more interesting for like the people going into teaching had a really watered down version of the biolabs. And I found myself trying to tweak it so that no like more science and things. So that's kind of where I got the taste for it. And I worked in industry for a while, did research stuff, and I missed that teaching component. So I took on new people to help in labs as a lab tech, that kind of thing. And then when I moved back to El Paso, I started teaching labs again, got my alternative certification, and here I am now teaching like 20 years later.
Thank you for sharing those stories, guys. Dr. Moreno.
Oh my goodness. You know what? It's just hearing your stories and talking about, how you guys became teachers is so amazing and interesting all at the same time. But I think I want to kind of go a little deeper around that same theme, if you will. So describe to the audience, how were you as a student in either high school or, look at Dana's already laughing because she's already thinking about, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? Because I know as a high school student, I became a principal because I lived in the principal's office. Like I knew exactly what that principal was going to say and do. So I became a principal because I just knew that role so well. I was a bad kid. So tell me your story. What is how were you as a high school student or a college student, either or? And then how was your first year in the classroom? Did that influence you while you were, because of the person you were? Did you change? And how did that work for you? And let's start off with Glenn, because Glenn, I know he has a story for me.
I spent a lot of time in the principal's office. I was a student
I
who
picked you out. I knew that. See?
I needed to be challenged, and if I wasn't challenged and if I wasn't learning, then I was bored, and then I was going to get in trouble. And because I would find something for myself to do, I would find a way to occupy my time, and but I loved to learn, and I loved that challenge. And I was fortunate because eventually I found some teachers that really, really challenged me, especially in high school. They pushed me to do different things. Um, I was in fact, in middle school, even I was pushed out of Spanish classes because I was fluent, I was bilingual. I always get in trouble in Spanish class because there wasn't like
Easy.
native or non-native or anything like that. I was bored. They pushed me out into Latin, and wow, just I was challenged and I was learning, I was growing, and I was developing. And I remembered the experiences that I had, especially in high school, with those teachers, pushing me to achieve higher levels. And so my first year in the classroom, I really modeled myself off of those challenging teachers who weren't always my favorite teachers. In fact, they were in the moments I didn't care for them. I didn't like sometimes the approach, but I also wasn't having any trouble in their classes. I had great grades, no discipline issues. And so I modeled myself as a first year teacher off of those individuals who made sure to touch everybody, every student, and help them achieve their maximum potential. Didn't do it very well my first year, but that was my goal, right? That's what I wanted to do.
Awesome, Glenn. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's important for us to realize that, we learn from our own selves, right? How we were as a child and as a kid, as an adolescent kid, and then how we did something about it when we became that educator. Alfonso, how about you? I know you have a story for me, sir, especially if you're from South Texas.
Well, for me, through high school, I was, pretty decent student. I mean, I managed to graduate in the top 10% of my class, but I guess I would say maybe I was a little troublemaker or somewhat maybe in a weird way because, I mean, I loved all my teachers and we had great time, but I would skip class a lot, but I would skip class so I can go visit my physics teacher who was also our chess coach. And I just skip class so I can go and play chess all day because that was my thing, in high school. It was the way for me to be able to get out, do trips, go and compete. And so just really fell in love with that and also band. But when I got into high school, obviously you don't have like teachers that are there on you all the time. And so my motto for 4 years in college was procrastinate later. That was my motto. And so what that meant was my professor would give me an assignment. I had to do a 15 or 20-page paper. I would just go sit in the academic services building where they had a computer lab the night before. I would start at 6 p.m. I would leave there at 7 a.m., go home, take a quick shower, and then come back and submit my papers. And that was my university experience. Graduated on time still, of course, everything was fine, but it was just, I don't know if it was because it was something that either it felt very easy for me, but just
Mhm.
working under pressure really helped me and it still helps me to this date, although that now I do feel it a little bit more. The older we get, the less I'm like I really need to stop doing this and do things on a more timely fashion. But
Yeah.
getting into the classroom for that first year, I think that growing up the way that I did and having my experiences, I was able to work with my students because the students that I had that I was teaching algebra were the retesters.
Ah,
So they're the students that were just being kind of like, it was a turnstile. They were just coming in, coming in, coming out, and we were on block schedule. So I would only get to build a relationship with them for about 3 months, and then they were out of my class. So
mhm.
I was able to make those connections and work with the students. Like my colleagues here were saying, making those connections was very important and
Yeah.
getting to know their home life a little bit and knowing where they're coming from really helped out. So I had a great mentor my first year, which really helped out a lot. And so as I was teaching, I would have the door open and I'd just be up there on the whiteboard. I'd be explaining. And Mr. Nava, he's wonderful mentor. He would just walk and he would just pace like down the hall. He really had no business in that hall because his math classroom was in another
It's really
building,
tight.
but he would just walk by very slowly. And one day I said, Mr. Nava, is everything okay? Like, I see you walking by my classroom. And he said, Alfonso, he goes, if you keep teaching the way that you're teaching, you're going to be in this business for a very long time. He goes, the
Hmm.
years are going to go by quick for you and you're going to make a mark. And from that moment on, I was like, that's it. I am hooked on teaching. That was my first year. And he was a great mentor. I can go and ask questions. He helped me out, learn more about classroom management, things of that sort. But for me, it was just building those relationships and because I was working with the retesters, building their self esteem and letting them know
Yes.
and saying these numbers, these tests do not define who you are because you can be great. Don't let this test determine your route, and we can end up breaking that cycle and you can be successful. And luckily, to this day, I have seen a lot of those students that I did have my first year. And I see them around town and they have grown up to be successful citizens and are just doing some great things. So that was my first year. That was my experience.
Wow, awesome. And I think you dropped a lot of nuggets there. It's important to have a great mentor,
Mm.
right? And since we're going to talk about that later on, I hope you kind of talk a little bit about some of those specifics. So awesome, awesome. Casey, how about you? How were you as a kid?
I was a pretty good student. The class superlative, I got voted easiest going, and I think that's probably a reflection of who I was. I never got in trouble, but I also didn't work all that hard. But some of that was because school was pretty easy. Um, I mentioned Mr. Dennison, and he was a male elementary teacher, and I really needed that. If we were to, score me on the ACEs test, I scored pretty high, and so to have him believe in me, and then get a lot of feedback at school. I always had the highest test scores on math, and so this was a place where I felt good and I felt safe and I was able to succeed. And so I never worked all that hard, but
Yeah.
it came pretty easy. And but at the same time, there were some struggles. Writing wasn't that easy for me. I had to work fairly hard at that. And and even though I was always scoring well in math and I was in the most advanced math classes, what I really liked was being in English class. And liked reading the books and analyzing the books and talking about philosophy. And so when I finally realized I should probably just be a teacher, and I don't mean just, but I should be a teacher, when I had Dr. Flam in college, I took a lot of that with me. I I made sure in that first year that I tried to connect with the kids, that I front loaded empathy. I didn't demand that they love history or love school, but I wanted them to feel good in that place and I wanted them to enjoy the content and I wanted them to have an opportunity to have a voice in my class. And
Mhm.
it allowed for me to have a lot of success that first year, and I've carried a lot of that with me in all the roles that I've had.
Awesome. And your first year, how was it?
It was a really good year because of that empathy that I showed up right
Mhm.
away, front loading empathy for kids, appreciating them, being grateful for them coming to class and doing the best they could. I mean, I probably blacked out large portions of that first year, because it's always wild. But it was good enough that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to keep doing this. And I got a lot of really positive feedback from the students, from the people I worked with. So.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Les?
So I guess I have to give you a little. My dad was kind of grew up in the olden time when you couldn't have hair touching your collar and this stuff. So I was kind of raised by a father who, like, the system was out, kind of like you got to kind of rebel a little bit. So I guess I was kind of argumentative, or like I needed a reason why I was doing this, or why are you making me do these problems? So I was that kind of kid. I mean, I had good grades, and my father's like, I'll defend you as long as you have A's and B's. So it kind of gave me free reign a little bit. So even now, and as far as like in teaching, like now I sort of celebrated like this class discussions and kind of debate type situations. And it's sort of the way I was raised. And that's kind of why I went to high school. And when I was in school, it was not celebrated. Like I was punished for this. That kind
Exactly.
of thing. Like it was not good. So I kind of used that, like, oh, I can actually facilitate this. And as far as my first year, I was really fortunate to go to, at the time, the largest school in El Paso. And we had a huge science department. And there was like 28 of us, and there was 6 or 7 in the biology department. So they were like all my mentors, and I took a little piece from all of them. And when I had questions, I would ask. When I didn't know what I was doing, they would come and sit in my classroom and watch me teach and kind of give me like feedback to kind of better me that way. So I think if it wasn't for that, I think the overwhelming pressure of being the person educating kids would have probably done me in early on, but thankful for that team. And even now, like full circle, one of my mentors, she's an assistant principal here with me. She's down the hall. So I get to see her still every once in a while. So it's kind of cool that way. But yeah, so that was kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, Dana, I kept the smart one and the best one for last because I know you were like the best kid, right?
I really was an angel, but it depends on who you ask. If you ask the math teachers, I was like the smartest kid in the class. If you ask the English teachers, I don't know, I might have gave them a run for their money, but I was a student leader. I was the vice president of my senior class. I was a band person. I played the clarinet, so I was a section leader. As you know, I helped my students in physics. I helped my classmates in physics. So I really enjoyed it. Like Casey, he was well in math, but English, it didn't come well to me. It came, but it didn't come as easy as math came. So I had to study a little more in English. And like I said before, I went back to Cross High School, which was the school that I graduated from. So my first year, they gave me 7th grade math. So I had 3 sections of 7th grade math, and I had 1 section of science. Now, I went to school to be a math educator. I didn't know anything about science, so I really apologize to my first year students that was in my science class because I went by the book. No engagement, no small groups, no activities, just vocabulary words and book and the questions at the end of the section. So I really apologize to y'all. But yeah, so and I also had a group of back in the day. I started in 1999. So in 1999 in South Carolina, you had to pass an exit exam to graduate from high school. Well, we had a group of seniors that did not pass the exit exam. So we had a group, and I had to teach them the skills that they needed to pass it. And 100% of my students passed the exit exam that year. So I was excited about that. But we don't have the exit exam anymore. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, awesome. Thank you, guys. Those are some great background stories on each one of you. I know Josh is going to take this to another level now and talk about kind of the roles that you guys are serving now. But that was so awesome. Great background information for our audience to hear about how you grew up and why you are where you are today. So awesome. Thank you, Josh.
So this is a 2-part question, guys. There is a time and a place where you tell yourself, it's time for me to leave the classroom to help the bigger picture. So there's always that transition. And a lot of times I try to kick out people that I work with. No, it's time for you to leave. You've conquered this. It's time to do better for more. Does that make sense? So my question is this: what or who convinced you to leave the classroom to go to central office as an instructional coach? I'm using that as a generic label. Obviously, in Wyoming, it might be a different title. In South Carolina, it might be a different title. So I'm just using a generic title, hence the title of the show. So as an instructional coach, who or what motivated you to leave the classroom? And what was the first obstacle you faced when you went on the other side? Because there's that other side, you know that. Because classroom teachers, when they see you, central office come to your door, there's a different way. Even though you might have worked with them before, there's like a different look at you. Does that make sense? So what or who motivated you to leave the classroom to become an instructional coach? And what was the very first obstacle you faced being or serving that new role? Dana.
So I spent majority of my journey, I call it a journey. I spent majority of my journey, 17 years in the classroom. I really wanted to leave at year 12, but the Lord didn't open the door until year 17. So I transitioned. It was like you know how you have I guess like a butterfly. So you have the butterfly and then you have different stages. So I did 17 years as a math teacher. Then I did 1 year as a math coach. Then I did 2 years as an AP. And then I did, I guess, 4 years now as a director. So even though my journey, I wanted it to be faster. I wanted my track to be faster. So when you say what inspired wanting more, I wanted more. I wanted to have more impact because in the classroom, I felt like I didn't have as much impact as I would have had like right now at the district level. So impact and who, what was the second question? I'm sorry, Josh.
What was the first adversity you faced?
That part. Okay, so the first adversity was it was hard leading people who I taught with because I'm in the same district. So the math teachers who I once worked with and worked aside, now I am supporting them and telling them, advising them what would be better for them. So that was hard for me to move in the same district with my math teacher. So that was a struggle for me. I got it now, but in the beginning it was a struggle because I was trying to be their friend, trying to have crucial conversations and not just stating the facts and, you know.
Thank you for sharing. And you know what? That's so right. That's why even when you're an administrator, it's hard to become an administrator in that same campus that you were a classroom teacher. It's difficult. Jefe, you just travel. Thank you for being here, Principal Cafel. Appreciate it. You safe travels. I know you'll be watching the rebroadcast right there. Les, go.
So for me, I was doing a lot of like district trainings already as a teacher. So I was already like for my note taking, whatever. And so I was kind of pushed with the, excuse me, the science facilitator at the district I was at to kind of look into it. So I did not do it within the same district I was a teacher. So I actually went to another district. And so when you think of adversity, the adversity that I had to face was the person before me didn't have like follow through on a lot of the things that they were going to go do. So I had to kind of like overcome this sort of negative perception of what my person was before me and kind of show that I was able to do that. And that's when I met Mr. Tovar was at high school there. And I worked with the science department there in another school. And that was probably the biggest challenge, to kind of prove to everyone that, like, you know, I'm legit, like I can do this, we'll make things better. And so I think that was the hard part.
Awesome.
For me.
Thank you for sharing that. Casey, what about you, my man?
Yeah, so I got my first taste of working with adults after 6 years of being in the classroom. So I was still pretty young. I was 28, 29, but I had a connection at the Ohio State University, and she believed in me and thought I could lead adults. And through that connection, I ended up taking what was basically an assistant principal job at a bilingual school in Concepcion, Chile. And I did that for 2 years, but I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I had done a great job. And so I returned to the United States and I returned back to the classroom. And after doing that for another decade or so, um, and, and feeling very confident in the job I could do in the classroom, what I noticed was a lot of people like to think out loud with me about best practices, about how to get kids to engage and all of that. And there was something about working with adults that was sparking something new in me. And so that because of those conversations, because of thinking out loud with adults, and sometimes they came back to me and were like, hey, I tried that thing out, it worked out great. I'm like, oh, this is a lot of fun, I like this. And so then I started to look for some opportunities to work with adults, and that's how I became an instructional coach. And as far as the first obstacle, here's what I found in this role. I want to support teachers. One thing that is true is unsolicited advice always comes off as criticism. So I'm careful not to do that. So I have to kind of hope people will come to me, and they do. But then there's the problem of whose vision are we supporting? The district's, the building principal, the classroom teacher's vision. And sometimes it's tough to get all those things to align.
Perfect. I'm glad you brought that up because that's going to be a question down the coming up right now. That's an awesome thing right there. Glenn, talk to me.
You know, I got into instructional leadership and instructional coaching pretty young, but I was really lucky because I had some great mentors in my life who saw some things in me that and pushed me out of my comfort zone to try some new things. So I was similar to Casey. I was pretty young. In fact, I was 27 when I became the campus instructional coach, and you know, Our friend Josh, Patty Cuevas, she was the one that pushed me to do that, but it was fraught with challenges from go because I was now, supporting, supervising, leading teachers that had hired me, leading teachers that had been teaching longer than I've been alive, and so that is a whole new world of challenges where you really need to think about, how do you effectively influence those with the best practices, with the research, and really make those connections to coach adults, which is tough when you're, I mean, at 27, I think I was barely an adult myself. So I was pretty fortunate in that regard, but also just the ability to struggle and learn through the process. There was a principal change when I became the instructional coach, and then the new principal, another friend of ours, Josh, Rosemary Menchaca, when she became that principal, she trusted me a lot. She gave me a lot of responsibilities, and through it all, she continued to push me to help me grow and progress along the career, and just encourage me that every step of the way is going to come with challenges. There's going to be haters at every turn of the corner, and you know what? That's the pressure test to make sure that you're in the right spot.
Yeah.
If you can make it through the pressure cooker, you're going to be ready to help those that you're in position to help.
Agreed. Fonz, close us out.
Yes, sir. Well, mine was an interesting story. Being in the classroom for 11 years, my last 2 years, I was a fifth grade teacher. And that's because one of my principals asked me to move from sixth grade to fifth grade because they needed somebody there. Well, the AP at the school at that time was not my biggest fan because I would include a lot of technology within my classroom setting where we would do, like, let's say the water cycle, but I would have my kids code the water cycle with, something simple like block coding. So they would create their own water cycles. They would do like anything that was dealing with science was hands on. The students were creating games and they were learning games, but they were the ones creating them. But this principal would always be like there at my little window. She would be peeking. She would always be doing that. And I was like, what's going on? I never confronted her because at the time I was like, you know what? I don't want to go up against my boss or ask anything. I'll just leave it as is. And one day my kids were coding and they were coding the lesson. And I see her do this. And 3 minutes later, my principal comes in and he walks in like really quick and he's looking around. He's like, hey, they just told me that your kids are just playing games. They're not doing anything. And I said, oh, okay, well, let's walk around. And so the kids were showing how they were coding the water cycle. They were actually creating a star test tutorial for students that they can go and stand in front of the computer. And it was very interactive and everything. And he's like, oh, okay. So that was my principal. Well, scores come back, and my class, my fifth graders, we had the highest scores within the district for science. At the end of the year, that principal, who was not my biggest fan, came to me and said, Mr. Mendoza, I apologize and I am so sorry for
Wow.
doing what I have done. I said, you owned it. You keep doing what you're doing. And that summer, I was doing a STEM camp, and she flew her granddaughter from Dallas to come and be part of that STEM camp. And then she was the one, believe it or not, that said, Mr. Mendoza, have you ever thought about, maybe possibly moving into central office and doing what you're doing here, but at a bigger level? And I said, no, ma'am, never. Like, I was scared. I was like, no. Opportunity came about and I just applied. And sure enough, I ended up getting the role. And so she was, I'm thankful for her and her belief in me afterwards. And that really just helped me get into central office in this role of a digital learning coordinator. And now the biggest challenge going into that for me was going back to that campus and training those teachers. And the very first time that I walked in to that school, they're like, oh, you're on the other side now. And these were
Mm.
teachers that I was working with forever that I would help out, work with them. And they're like, oh, you're part of them. You're on the dark side now. So that was one of the biggest things to overcome. But then, like Glenn was saying, there's going to be people that are not going to be happy when somebody comes up.
Mhm.
They're not going to be happy about it because for whatever reason. But the next challenge that I want to include in that too was now having a seat at the table I noticed that obviously everybody around me had a master's degree and I didn't have a master's degree because I said I'm never going to go back to school. Well, now I'm there putting like bumping elbows with them, sitting at the table, and I would give input, and it just seemed like it would just fall by the wayside. Like who are you? Like you're just the tech guy or whatever. And I was like, but I was in the classroom for 11 years. There's a far disconnect between what you see and what I see. And
Mhm.
so I've just felt that I wasn't being heard. So I said, okay. So I went back and got my master's in educational technology. And now I said, okay, I want a seat at the table and I want my voice to be heard. And so that also was a kind of like propelled me now to also get my doctorate too as well, because I definitely want my voice to be heard and all for the betterment of our students as well.
And that's why you're gonna be a badass superintendent, bro. Facts. I told you that. You're gonna be a badass superintendent. Dr. Moreno.
Oh my goodness. You know, Josh, I don't know if you know that, but I was that person who got promoted from within the classroom to assistant principal in the same building in the middle of the year. So I was right after spring break, I moved out of my classroom into the assistant principal role. And I remember my friends who would say, you're gonna be supervising me and now you're gonna, evaluate me. That is the hardest thing. And so I overcame that. Obviously, it became a principal eventually, but yeah, you're absolutely right. All of you, when you're saying you're going back and your friends and the people you hang around with, oh my God, that is really tough. But you're humble, you hear, you listen, and you support, and then things kind of come around. So awesome, great stories. Oh my God, I got chills. Um, let's go to the next question, you guys. Let me see. I know all of you guys shared your experiences and your some of your challenges, but let's go. Let's talk a little bit about, since you go to different classrooms and different schools weekly to observe teachers and whatnot. There's different cultures and different delivery styles, right? That you are encountering. What are some of the obstacles that you face going to support some of these educators, right? So every school has its own flavor. Every teacher has its own style, right? So how do you manage some of that as you guys are going into some of these classrooms? And we're going to start off with Les.
Sorry, I think I think you have to kind of embrace those differences a little bit. It just everyone has their own kind of way of doing it. So I think that's one of the issues I think with teachers or new teachers in particular. They're trying to kind of fit this mold of the expectation or like try to make the lesson work for them, what they're already getting as is. And so I found myself as an instructional specialist when I'd meet with different people. That was the thing. Like I would tell them like, well, you pick what you want to do, because if you don't like what you're teaching, the kids are going to know that and it's going to come off as
Yeah.
boring kind of thing. So if you don't like them in rows, put them in groups. If you don't like them in groups, put them in rows. Like, do what's your comfort level so you can kind of work with them that way. I think the biggest eye opener for me when I went from classroom to the instructional specialist thing, so I had like 5 or 6 different schools I went to, but I didn't realize like how critical, I apologize for that, how critical how critical it was for like someone's texting me from seeing this or whatever. So and then like, oh my God, I'm like, yeah, calm down. So I think the difference was I didn't realize how much power the principal and admin on a campus have over the entire feel or culture of the school, and going in from like one school where it's very welcoming, inviting, and then going to another one and it's kind of a cold, sad feeling place, right? And I think that was kind of the shocker to me. And that was harder to deal with than teachers, having all these different personalities and different ways of teaching, but just trying to like make nice with that, like people who are just in a bad place because the leadership may not be as welcoming to them or to anyone else. But you help them wherever you can. Like our boss told us, your job is to remove obstacles. So whatever they needed help with, we would do, and we kind of work with them and meet them where they're at. So co-teaching, helping them with lesson plans, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And you're right. There's different classrooms in different schools where you walk in and you feel the culture. It's kind of like a sixth sense that we have, right? That you walk in and you're like, oh, there's something going on here. I know
Yeah.
when we all did lunch duty at one point or another, and so you can always tell there's going to be a fight going on because you can feel it. How about you, Alfonso? What about you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Being the only one in my role for 14
Hmm.
schools, you get to know the principals, and I think for me, it's just building relationships with principals. Now, the great thing that my district does is that we have a chief instruction officer, so he pretty much oversees the principals, and then of course he puts out newsletters and things of that sort. So we try and remain and be all on the same page, but obviously, each campus has, like you mentioned, their own flavor, their own kind of vibe and everything. And so for me, it has always been my motto. And I know that's probably getting ahead, but this is going to be my quote when you ask that. But I have always lived by this quote that I learned from a friend back in 2016 was improvise, adapt, and overcome. So for me, those three words have made me very successful, not only in the classroom, but in what I'm currently doing. Because now I have to go into a campus, and maybe, of course, you might run into it could be a bad day for that teacher or that PLC group that I'm going in with. And sometimes it's just like, hey, I'm just here and I want to listen. And then I can always come back and say, these are some of the solutions that we have. But for me, it's always been building that relationship and, of course, overcoming those obstacles. Like we mentioned, teachers, we are creatures of habit. There's a certain way that we do things, and it's very hard to get us out of that comfort zone. So I always go in with my KISS philosophy, which is keep it simple and streamlined. Okay. Many other people put a different S there. But for me, I'm all about streamlining the process for teachers. And if I can make things easier for you, and by maybe not adding more to your plate, but with what we're doing together, removing something and making it a little bit more engaging and making it a little bit, just better as far as your process and workflow. That's what I love to do. But it's very important that we do build those relationships. But it starts with the principals first, and
Mhm.
then because they'll be the ones that'll let you in or not. And then you work with the teachers, and then you just keep following up with them, giving them the positive feedback. I think Casey mentioned sometimes when you do give a suggestion, it could be seen as criticism. So it's just, making them feel that comfort level with you, that you can go back and forth and that you're listening and helping them, and that they're also taking what you're giving them to help improve the process. So it could get very complicated, but that's really been it for me. Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Dana, how about you?
So I agree that the principal sets the culture of the school. I support 5 different schools in 3 different
Mhm.
areas, and all 5 schools have different cultures. So just like Alfonso said, building relationships with the principals, seeing what the principal vision is, because you may have a vision for that school, but if it's not the principal's vision, it's their school. So we're
Exactly.
we're we're here to support, not take over. So I believe building relationships is positive. So when you walk in, they're not scared of you. If you're always coming to them to support them, when you come in, it's not like I got you. It's like oh, she's here to help. So
Mhm.
and as far as like the delivery style, we're on 90-minute blocks. So delivery style, you shouldn't be up talking of all 90 minutes. So we need engagement. Engagement looks different based on the teacher's personality, depends
Yeah.
on the school, the level of the students and the needs of the students. So we like small groups. So making sure you have small groups based on the data of the students' needs. And each teacher have different needs. So when you come to a teacher, teacher A might have different needs and personality than teacher B. So you can't talk to teacher A like you taught to teacher B. So you have to have that relationship and know
Yeah.
which teacher needs what.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Differentiation. We need it even with the adults in the
Yeah.
building. So awesome. What about you, Casey? Do you remember the question? You want me to tell you again? Got it?
Say it again. Yeah,
Okay, because it's been a little while now.
it has.
So the question is, you're going to different schools weekly and observe different cultures and delivery styles. So what's one obstacle you face going in to support these educators?
So the way my district works is a lot of the training I get is at the district level, but then putting it into practice is within the building.
Mhm.
And so I actually have my supervisor is the building principal. And so
Mhm.
no matter what training I'm getting at a district level, it gets filtered through that lens, right?
Mhm.
And so there's a little challenge in that. I have to make sure that the vision is at least close to the same before I start to support teachers. Once I'm in the classroom, though, the thing is, so I've had lots of jobs in my life, and I've enjoyed all of them. I've worked at gas stations, in zoos, in minor league baseball teams, but every job I've had, I've loved because I made it my own. And I
Mhm.
think it's really important that teachers have that same opportunity. And so the way to do that, because obviously there's a certain way I would choose to teach, and I did it because it was the best way for me.
Mhm.
But I want to help a teacher see their own vision for what it should look like. And so when I work with the teacher to overcome that obstacle and not like try to really influence the input, is just to focus on the output and be a thought partner with that teacher. Like, what is it that you want to see in your classroom? What what do you want the behaviors to be? What do you want the academic results to be? Okay, awesome. Well, how do you see getting there? And then once that conversation is going and they're talking about this perfect classroom, then I can think out loud with them, and then it's a little safer. And then maybe sometimes they'll be like, I don't know, I was thinking about this, and I say, well, here's some things some others have tried, or something like that. And then next thing you know, we're just having a very comfortable conversation about what we might try because we're focused on the output, on what the students are doing, not really making it a spotlight on the teacher.
Mhm. Mhm. Awesome. Do you do that before you go in and observe? Is that what this
That
pre-conference? I'm
is
going to call it a pre-conference.
Sure. That is the coaching cycle I try to go through
Mhm.
is wait before I sit and observe a teacher, what do you want me to look for? What is something you're working on? What kind of feedback do you want? I let them be in charge of all of that so that it doesn't feel like criticism when we have that conversation.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And last but not least, Glenn.
My biggest challenge is really about fidelity of implementation while preserving the need for differentiation. Because when you think about being all over the state with every different district, with every different population, how do we preserve that fidelity of implementation for whatever it is that we're doing? Best practices, we understand that, but it looks different in its implementation based off of the needs of students, based off of the individual instructor. So making sure that we arrive at the right outcome, right? Thinking more about the outputs and having the conversation with teachers about these are the outputs. This is what students are showing us. This is what students are doing. And if they're not getting to the end state that we all desire for them, because every teacher wants greatness for their kids. I've
Mhm.
never met a teacher that walks in and shows up to school and says, today I want to make sure that my kids are dumber. Today I want to hurt student achievement. I want to see how bad can this get. No, every teacher shows
Yeah.
up with good intentions for their kids. The
Yeah.
key is to be able to have that objective conversation with teachers, with campus leaders, and say kids aren't achieving the goals that we've set out for them. So let's really talk about why, what's happening, and then figure out how do we make those points of differentiation while preserving the intended outcome and the fidelity that we know is important in the process, right? So balancing that out is going to be absolutely critical. And then having those objective conversations, and those objective conversations start by building rapport the moment that you're interacting, from a hello and a good morning to the way that your body language looks walking into your classroom. You're building rapport and relationships and setting the tone. So those are some of the things that I primarily focus on.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn. And thank you, Pano, for some great tips and suggestions.
You guys mentioned it, so just be as honest as you want to be. Obviously,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I trust me. I understand. Look, guys, facts. Just like you said, Glenn, fidelity. Some of you mentioned about people that sit in my chair. What do you guys need from campus administration to help you help their team members? Let me repeat it again. What does campus administration need to do to help you to help their team members? Glenn.
You got to be present. If you're not in the classroom, then you're not going to know what the teacher is able to need. If you're not spending time being there as that thought partner and creating that space to have those instructional conversations, it's not going to work. It's just not. People are going to be closed off.
Bonds.
I agree with Glenn. Just be an instructional leader as well. One of my things that I would love to see also is the consistency also with principals, as far as what to look out for, what does good teaching look like, what are some best practices, and then be able to share that also themselves and be part of that conversation and not be scared to say like, hey, maybe we can see some improvement here, or maybe have a conference and speak out a little bit more. Many times I feel that not being present can be definitely a hindrance in the classroom, because then the teacher may not get that immediate feedback, and then maybe we're not seeing the outcomes that we expect, and it could just be a simple conversation and a simple tweak in instruction. So that's what I would like to add.
Casey.
Hmm.
I really need them to provide clarity and certainty. I am not an authority. The teachers don't report to me in any way. I'm a partner of theirs. And in a lot of ways, I intentionally avoid being too close to the principal, right? I want you to know I don't go to him, but I do need the principal to provide clarity on what it is we're trying to achieve, and some certainty that we're going to achieve that, so that there's a little oomph behind the work that we're trying to do.
Facts. Dana.
I agree with being present, being consistent, being an instructional leader, and I'm going to add accountability, because a lot of times the principal tell the teachers like what's expected, but there's not any follow-up. So we need follow-up and accountability.
Les.
I think follow through is kind of critical. I'm trying to think of something a little different. The clarity, but the follow through. I think the school I had an issue with trying to get things done was this principal would go off to all these conferences and come back with these great ideas and want to start implementing all these things. And it's like, the beginning of the year, you said we're going to do this, is going to be our thing, this is what we're going to do. And then all of a sudden, here we are 6 weeks in, you went to a new conference, and now we have a new initiative, and then you go to another conference, and then you go to a new initiative. And I think that like follow through. So like what you start in the beginning of the year, like have fidelity and follow it through. And that goes with being present. It goes with the clarity. It goes with all those things. And I think that was the biggest thing, that lack of follow through is a problem, man.
One of the persons that I learned from the best, and I always remember that person talking to me, was my mom. She was the ankle biter. She was the one that you did not want as a principal or assistant principal, because she would tell you, what can you teach me? That one, you know what I'm talking about out there. And so she always made a statement, and things stay in my head. I act like they don't, but they do. And she used to say, they take us to all these, just like that. They take us to all these trainings, and never once do I see them there. So how can they tell me how to teach if they're never there?
Drop the mic.
And then you know what? That always stayed in the back of my head. It always stayed. And when I did that, obviously, mom must always teach as well, right? And when I took over the last high school I was at, it was the worst in the district. It was the worst grade. It was everything. And when you talk about Texas accountability, I'm sure it's pretty confusing also in Wyoming and in South Carolina. But all the domains and the graduation and the blah, 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 all that. You see, when you're an AP, you're in charge of niches. You're in charge of stuff. And if you're in a big high school, you got this and you got this and you got this. And so the last day I had was leading a magnet at Bel Air, was leading the magnet and turning that around with recruiting. And so when I took over Socorro High School, which was a D minus 82% graduation rate, you don't know all that formula. Your job was to recruit the best kids of the district to go to your high school and get all the other principals angry because you took away their brains. and so I invited that man, Glenn. He was at Region 19. And at that same time, I had Sean Kane. Sean Kane and Glenn were tutoring me at every last thing. I was there taking notes. And if I had pull-outs of team members, I was at every session taking the same notes over and over and over because I had Virginia. That's my mama who said that. You can expect me to learn it if you're not willing to put in that time like I did. So that's crucial out there. And that's exactly why I asked that question. Dr. Moreno.
Les, that's called chaos. When principals go into all these breakout sessions and they come back and they want to do everything, that's called chaos. And you know what? Teachers hate it because you have no plan. Oh my goodness. You were reminding me of somebody that I know that does the same thing, and that drives me crazy because it's like, dude, like, get with it. Like, you have a school to lead. So, we all have our stories, and, all of you guys are coaches and you guys are supporting and helping others. Let's just kind of break the ice a little bit. Can you guys share a success story of someone or that you coached that where did they start off at and how are they doing now? A success story that you supported with a teacher. And let's go ahead, and I know Alfonso has a great story.
So this goes back to, I think we were talking about earlier. It's like, what can you teach me? So coming into this role, we went and switched platforms to become a just Google district. So then I was tasked with, hey, you need to come up with a new system for lesson plans. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and do everything Google, and they're going to have new lesson plans. Well, at this time, as you know, there was a different platform that we have. And for teachers, many times, lesson plans they submit, but do they get checked? So they were so used to just having that system, and they knew that they just had to log in and just select everything that was there, and their lesson plans were already there. So now having them to start fresh and starting with a new platform, there's a wonderful teacher there who is already going, I think, on her 30th year teaching. So this was about year 20, about 25 or 22 for her. And so when I went and presented, she, after I was done showing them the new template, how it's going to be done, how principals are going to view this and everything, she came up to me and she's like, no, sir, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen because there's nothing that you can do to teach me this, and I will not do it. So obviously there was that change. I had to go in to her classroom and we walked through it one at a time. She was not very tech savvy. She didn't feel comfortable with it, but just went in there with a lot of love, and she would push back, but showed her, walked her through, and she's still there. And I went back a couple years back and she said, you know what, Alfonso, in the 20 some plus years that I've been here, nobody has ever taught me anything but you. And she said, you've extended my teaching time because now I walk in there and she's all Googled out. She's got her docs, her spreadsheets, and everything. And so it felt like she extended her career more because she found it so easy and useful. So that's the story that I will always share and I will always take with me.
Oh, that's a sweet story. And you know what? Everybody can learn something, right? And so I love it. She's Googled out. That's cute. Glenn, how about you? What's a success story?
Recently I had the opportunity to reconnect with some former superintendent colleagues from the past, and you never know when relationships are going to resurface in your life. You never know how your prior interactions might come back into your current professional reality and experience. And I was doing some work with a school district who had been identified for some low performance, things like that. I'm having the conversation with the superintendent. Really, really positive conversation. We talked about the strategy and the plan moving forward, the different supports. What could we do at the agency to support the superintendent? Great conversation. But that's not instructional support. That's not instructional coaching or leadership. Well, I, end the conversation, and that superintendent ends up talking to some of their colleagues and said, you know what? Like that whole process that you're gonna have to go through, don't worry about it. There's this guy, he calls Glenn, blah, blah, blah. And one of my prior supports and networks said, he helped me with our ratings when we were going through pandemic. And so he called me up, that superintendent that I'd previously met with called me up and said, can I talk to you about a really important thing? We need to do a curriculum change and adoption with our board. I've got some pushback. I'm not comfortable talking to anybody, but I heard you're good. Can we talk? And the superintendent has since gotten the curriculum that he wanted adopted, the curriculum that he knows his teachers need and want, and he has the full plan of success to support that implementation, train up his teachers. He's hired instructional coaches. The plan and the strategy is set. All because, again, the everybody needs that instructional coaching and support.
Awesome. That's a great story. And I'm glad it's all about relationships, and you never know when you're going to be tapped to be that person again, right? So awesome. Thank you. Dana, how about you? A success
So,
story that you witnessed being a
a
coach.
success story that I witnessed was we have an influx of, well, we have a lot of math and science teachers are hard to find. So we have international teachers that come from other countries. So I had a math teacher that came from Jamaica, and in Jamaica they don't have discipline issues like we have in America. So it was different for them. So they didn't understand like the class management. So what I did was I worked with them, clear expectations, routines, procedures. I introduced her to my favorite book, Harry Wong, First Day of School, where he, told you what to do for each activity. I just, worked with them. I modeled it. We wrote them down. We made a vision. By second semester, it was a whole different classroom. So I think that would be a great success. And the students thrive because, they knew what to expect when they walked into the classroom.
Awesome. Thank you, Dana. How about you, Les? A success story you witnessed as being a coach?
So one of the middle schools, there was a teacher quit kind of like 2 weeks after the school year started. And so then there was this group of kids that were 8th grade science, and they were kind of left to their own devices with random subs. So they hired a first year teacher like December-ish, right? Like right before break. And the kids were feral, basically. And so when he was working with them, the admin chose to put on a growth plan like right away. So like by the time he came back in January, he had all this like, kind of like this negative thing. He was so afraid of doing things wrong. So myself and like 2 other instructional coaches were in his room a lot. I would teach the first period class lesson, then we would co-teach together, and then we'd have conference, discuss what kind of went right, what went wrong, and then he would teach on his own on the last period of the day. And so we kind of did this model every other day, and then had these kind of, venting sessions or whatever he needed to do to get it out. And I mean, and so by the end of the year, by the time we got to like, April, he was on his own. He had classroom management. I mean, he had the behavioral unit was one of his periods as well. I mean, he had the kids that couldn't pass the test, like the remediation course, like all the stuff that no one wanted to teach was on his schedule on top of like all these things. And I feel he's like a success story. He's still teaching now. This is like 12 years later. He coaches football, coaches wrestling. He's very involved in the middle school. And I think that was nice to see this guy who started off in such a horrible place to just be this great teacher to this day.
Awesome. I'm glad it turned around because sometimes it doesn't. And that's when you start writing up and start exiting, right? Casey, let's round it off with you, sir. A success story that you witnessed.
Sure. A lot of the success I witness comes from book studies that we do, and they're almost always voluntary. I'm pretty good buds with Scott Irvin and Jed Hafer. They're behavioral leadership guys, and so I offered Scott's book up as a book study. Who's interested, and this one teacher took to it right away, and like excitedly coming to talk to me often, and just I don't know what today's Sunday, right? So 3 or 4 days ago, she came into my office and she was excited as can be, and she's just telling me a story about how she's using some of the strategies that we talked about as we were looking at the book study, and she said it changed her life in the classroom. She was having so much more fun. She was seeing a lot less of the worst behaviors, and so it was really exciting. And it went one step further, and I said, well, can I see it? And she's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And there's a kind of a little guide that you go through to kind of score the the strategies that they're using. And I'm like, well, is there any chance you'd let me do this? And she's like, yeah, I would love it if you would. And she's like, and if you want to try it out sometime, I'd love to watch you. And then it became this great thing where all of a sudden, because sometimes I feel like being an instructional coach is a little like being a vampire, where you have to be invited into that space or you lose all your powers. And she's invited me into that space, and I've loved it, and it's been great.
Awesome. And you know what? Just so that everybody out there knows, book studies actually work. I know, Josh, you're a big fan of book studies. And so super excited that you mentioned that, Casey, because some principals feel that they don't work or it doesn't work. And others kind of feel, that they do. So I'm glad to hear that you were successful. I know I did book studies on my campus, and it really is, especially when you keep the you keep it going and you're talking about it in your faculty meetings, in your PLCs, in your meetings, because it's one thing to kind of give them a book and never open the book and never even talk about it. So a book study, you really have to really engage with it. So awesome. Josh, take it away.
Done it in the last 2 schools. I do one every semester here where I'm at. Always book studies. Speaking of book studies, quick commercial break. Don't forget to get Superintendent Glenn Robbins' book, Calm in the Chaos. It's that time, connecting stress with the Stoics. Hey, Glenn, you love that book right there. Kevin Curtis, The Discipline Show, was here last week. This guy will tell you how. So if anybody out there in America, you have somebody that's really struggling with classroom discipline, right here. Steps, not only for the classroom, but for the whole campus. And Grow Your Why, Josh Tolar, chapter 23, right there. Reach out. And if you don't want to read, we have the audiobook. It's the first book out there that has all 23 authors reading their own chapters. So you could get that one also. Let's close off this show right now. Real quick, we're not at the Ganas yet. We're not there yet, Casey. I see you reaching for your lightning round. Real quick, 2 quick little questions. And we're going to start off with you, Dana. Alt certs. We have a lot of alt certs. We can't fill in the vacancies. They're coming out from industry. Tell us, what are you doing in your district, or what are you doing to help these alt cert team members? Go.
We support them district-wide. So first we have an orientation in the beginning, and we give them like class management, what to expect, and then we connect them with a mentor, and we follow them. We connect them with a mentor, and we follow them, and they get monthly support from our HR.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Les.
So we have instructional coaches on our campus, and they go in there and they help the new teachers that come in. They kind of show them classroom management skills, get their classroom set up, get everything going. There's new teacher mentorship through our district as well. That's how they're supported.
Casey.
Yeah, so very similar. We have orientation at the beginning of the year. We have monthly check-ins where they meet with instructional leaders. We have a mentor for each of them. We do things like micro teaching where they really get a chance to reflect on their own instruction. So pretty cool stuff.
Glenn.
Just really making sure that there's some good protocols set up so that people are visiting the classroom and then having that additional time to reflect and talk about what's working in the classroom, what's not working in the classroom, and providing teachers with the right materials to start off. If you think about the challenges that an alt cert teacher has, trying to figure out all the activities and the alignment to the curriculum and blah, 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 how about we give it to them so that they can work on the implementation and get the support with management first, then they can go back and innovate with whatever additional items and resources they need.
Facts. Fonz.
Very similar to what a lot of people said. Beginning of the year, we actually have our curriculum laid out for them in Google Classrooms. Each of our content specialists has a Google Classroom broken up either from K through 5 or 6 through 12, whatever grade level they're in charge of. And it has all the curriculum laid out for them by weeks, by topics, and broken down with all the activities. So all they have to do is just click there, click open, and they just know exactly where it is that they need to be that day. Obviously, the coaches go in there and they work with them also independently. And then they have monthly meetings where they'll come into the service center and we have discussions as far as technology implementation, procedures, things of that sort. So it's just a Q&A and just helping them out and supporting them throughout the year.
Awesome. Dr. Moreno.
Lightning round, guys. This is the last question before our true lightning round. So I just want you guys to throw out just one strategy or one maybe article or book or something that members can use to enhance their craft. One strategy, one thing somebody can do to kind of help them with their
I think go watch others teach.
watch others teach.
Yeah, go watch teachers teach. See other people teach.
Awesome. Casey.
Yeah, I think you have to create a vision for what you want to see in your classroom, and then you got to build strategies to get to that vision. See the output.
Dana, how about you? A strategy.
Collaboration through PLCs.
All right, collaboration through PLCs, making sure you're talking to others and focusing on that goal, right? Glenn, how about you?
See the end in mind. Know the end game. Curriculum, instruction, and alignment all comes together.
Amen. And last but not least, the funds.
For me, it's just don't be scared to ask for help. That's it.
I love that. I'm so glad you mentioned that as being, you're the last person, but you know what? People are afraid. And I think that's why we have podcasts like this, so that they can listen and hear others and then maybe build that self-esteem and then ask others. We're not here alone, you guys. We're here to support one another. Josh.
And that's why I kept asking Glenn questions. And without Glenn tutoring me on the beautiful and simple way Texas does its rating system, not complicated at all. Zero complication. I think that was one of the pillars that helped turn around that campus from a D- to a B- in 3 years. 82% graduation rate to a 91% graduation rate in 3 years. And all there, hey, you need a seed. And part of that seed was that guy right there, Glenn. So you know what? We're going to get started with you, Glenn. Here we go. Échale ganas. Dana's looking at me like, ganas? What is that? How do you eat that? Is that, you put a ranch on it? Casey's like, ganas? What is that? Is that some type of bread? No, ganas is a spiritual word. It is used by all Hispanics. It doesn't matter where. Argentina, El Salvador, Venezuela, Peru, everywhere. Everyone uses that same word. There is no equate. No equate. There's a grandma yelling at her daughter playing the violin and the mariachi. Échale ganas, mija. You've got a mother dolled up in her son's football uniform yelling, échale ganas, mijo. And I'm talking about both football and football. It doesn't matter. It's both of them right there. So it's a strong word, and this is why it's a lightning round. And don't go too long. It's not a five sentences. You're not writing War and Peace. It's a lightning round. So don't, as Principal Cafella says, don't make me go, that's it. You're going too long. It's a lightning round. So Glenn, we're starting with you. Give advice to a new teacher.
You know what? It's not always going to be easy, but it is going to be a beautiful ride. Hang in there.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
Real quick, one of my students ended up going through different career changes, couldn't figure out what she wanted to do, but always stayed in contact with me in different ways. And I just continued to encourage her to chase her dreams. And she just completed law school. And I got a beautiful text from her to say, I just finished, and thank you for always encouraging me to find my passion.
Eso. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Man, those are going out to a lot of people. I don't know if I have enough flowers for that.
Lightning round, only one.
I'm gonna send them to Rosemary Menchaca. She really pushed me into leadership.
Love it. Name one person people should follow on social media.
You gotta follow the Go Jaguars, those MPAs. You're gonna connect to a lot of people that way.
What's one song, una canción that embodies you as a person, your spirit?
You know what? I'm gonna go right now with Post Malone. Celebration. Congratulations. Right. I'm sorry. Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right. What's your favorite quote?
Prefiero vivir de pie que what? No, I'm sorry. Prefiero morir de pie que vivir de rodillas. I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
What's your favorite cheap food or sweet?
Oh, anything. Pan dulce. Any pan dulce.
All right, sweet. Hey, Wyoming, sweet bread, Mexican sweet bread. All right, what's your favorite favorite TV show or book?
I don't have a favorite TV show, but right now I'm reading Lead It Like Lasso, the Ted Lasso leadership approach.
There you go. How can people reach out to you, sir, so they get that knowledge, that awesome knowledge you have?
At BU_Glenn on X or glenn.nathan@tea.texas.gov.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dana, here we go. Give advice to a new teacher.
Every day is a new day. So no matter what happens yesterday, if you have a bad lesson or a bad student, every day is a new day. Give yourself and your students grace.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
So I was tutoring a middle school student last month, and she was struggling with system of equations word problems. So she sent me a text thanking me that she made 100 on her quiz.
Awesome.
Nice. Send some flowers to a current educator who inspires you.
I'm going to send a red rose to, even though she's allergic to it, to Dr. Sheikah Houston, Director of Intervention for Chester County School District. She is a toolbox of knowledge.
Sheikah, name one person people should follow on social media.
Dr. Sheikah Houston.
There you go. Love it. What's one song that embodies your spirit as a person?
So music is really my love language. So this was hard, but I'm on Good Day by Forrest Frank. I want to have a good day. So that's my theme every Monday, because I don't like Monday. So that is my theme. Make it a good day.
Got it. What's your favorite quote?
Good, better, best. I will not rest until my good becomes better and my better become the best. That's not settling for good, always striving for better.
I love it. What's your favorite food? Cheat food or sweet?
Cheat food. So my cheat food, don't judge me. This is free space, no judgment. I like McDonald's fish sandwich, cooked fresh, add lettuce and tomato with a Sprite.
Aren't those disgusting things good? I agree.
They are. You have to add the lettuce and tomato to make it feel like deluxe. You get a deluxe when you add the lettuce and tomato.
This fat guy loves those. I got you. I feel you. I love you. All right. What is your favorite TV show or book?
So right now I'm watching a lot of TV. Doc. It's the doctor who was in a car accident and she lost her memory for 8 years, and she's overcoming these challenges. So it's teaching me never to give up, adapt to change, and keep moving forward.
Love it. How can people reach out and learn that math knowledge that you bring to the table?
On Facebook, I'm Dana Trinae Williams. On Instagram, Dana Trinae. I am Dana Trinae, and on X @Dana Trinae.
Casey, give advice to a new teacher.
You got to say a lot of things that come true. When you speak, your students need to believe you. It's the foundation of a trusting and learning environment, for sure.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspires.
So don't play me off here. This one's going to be a little long, but give it to me because
you got time for those. Go.
Okay, because this student mentions a lot of things that I did intentionally, and she noticed, and that meant something. So, Mr. Schertz, I just wanted to say thank you so much for such an awesome school year. I'm so glad I got to be in your class this year. Thank you for teaching history the right way from all perspectives. Thank you for caring so much about your students, remembering our names and conversations, and always being excited to start the day. Thank you for giving us the freedom to be creative in the classroom and allowing us to speak our minds on whatever subject was in front of us. Thank you for being a great teacher. The world really needs teachers like you. I appreciate all that you do.
Eso. Woo! Esas son ganas. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
It's got to be Jennifer Betts. She will do anything that is asked of her. She's a true utility player. She'll teach sped. She'll teach math. She does it all. She's awesome.
Name one person people should follow on social media.
Scott Irvin, the Kid Whisperer. Great stuff.
What is one song that embodies your spirit as a person?
Listen, when I'm running, I'm usually listening to sad dad music. When I'm working out, it might be Wu-Tang Clan, but I'm going to go with John Prine. It's a big old goofy world.
All right, there you go. There we go. What's your favorite quote?
Now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good. John Steinbeck from East Eden.
What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Protein ice cream every night.
What is your favorite TV show or book?
Ted Lasso.
How can people reach out to you and name your podcast again, senor?
Sure. So on Facebook, it's Casey Schertz. On X, it's @Mr. Schertz. Instagram @Mr. Schertz. And you can also email or @Shirts and Ties. co-host of the Shirts and Ties podcast. We've had some great guests on there. Josh, actually, I think we need to get together to finalize when you're coming on. It's soon, I think. So
You got it. Exactly. Thank you. Les Harris, give advice to a new teacher.
So I'm a believer in the instructional rounds. So I think have someone come observe you, see, and go see them. So I'm a big advocate for that. So that's that.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
So I did some time in elementary, right? So I used to work the kindergarten section, and this one little boy and I would have these little competitions with questions. And so he drew a picture of me with my coffee mug, and it hangs right here in my wall. And it says, "Mr. Harris, you're a genius." And I look at that every day, and knowing that I am truly a genius.
Eso. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Marianne Torales. She was my number one helper. She observed me as a teacher. She helped me grow. I think it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be where I am today.
Who should people follow on social media? One person?
Keenan Bikes. He's a teacher here, a literature teacher, and he has these really amazing photographs, like insects and all kinds of stuff. So,
all right. What's one song? One song that embodies your spirit as a person.
So my spirit changes as the year goes through, right? So in the beginning of the year, it might be happy. So right now, it's kind of, I think my song is "Losing It" is sort of where I'm at in the year.
All right. What's your favorite quote?
So I don't know who said it, but it's posted in a classroom I go visit all the time. And I look at it and it's like, if you quit, they win. And I think it was LeBron, maybe. It was a sports guy. I'm not a big sports person. So it's kind of like, there's days where I'm like, no, I need to, like, you quit, they win. So here we are.
What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Cheesecake.
All right. What's your favorite TV show or book?
It's more of a genre. So I'm a true crime person. So Datelines, all that kind of stuff.
All right. How can people reach out and learn about IB, science, so on and so forth?
So I have a IB at Coronado on Instagram. And then I also have you can email me, lwharris@epsd.org. And there's that. And I can do, will this work? If I do a little QR code, you can find me, my website, everything is there as well.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Hermano, RGV, the Fonz, closing off the show. And guys, make sure that right now, after Fonz is done, hold on, don't go away. Wait till we close off the show. Fonz, give advice to a new teacher.
It's okay to not know everything.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
So this is from a student who is at Georgia Tech doing cybersecurity. So it was fantastic getting this from her. It just says, "Dear Dr. Dr. Mendoza," because that'll be coming up soon. So it says, "I just want to say a huge thank you for inspiring me to pursue technology. Because of your advice and encouragement, I'm headed to Georgia Tech to study cybersecurity. I really appreciate how you sparked my interest in this field and made me believe that I can achieve these things."
Eso! Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Okay, so obviously being here in the RGV, one of my biggest inspirations, and we were just talking to her pre-show, is Dr. E.T. here from the RGV. She is everywhere and she is nonstop and she's truly inspiring and really doing some wonderful things here, not only in the RGV, but worldwide now. And she has a heart for community, heart for the children. So big flowers to her for sure.
Name one person people should follow on social media.
They should follow, it's the Ed Tech Collective. Her name is Yolanda Latham, and she's also an instructional coach, and she does some fantastic things. And she did a presentation at TCA called PD in a Box, where she creates little boxes with all of the little things that the teachers will need just to do, a lesson. And so it's fantastic.
Love it. What's one song that embodies
One song, it is going to be by Phil Wickham, "This Is the Day." That is my daily every morning. This is a day that the Lord has made.
Amen. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is "Improvise, adapt, and overcome." That has been my motto for years.
What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
My book. Did you skip the book?
No. Cheat food is next.
Oh, cheat food is next. My bad. Cheat food. It's going to be conchas.
Ah.
Okay. Hey, Fonz, tell Wyoming, conchas. South
Concha is
Carolina.
Mexican sweetbread. Little, it looks like a little conch or a little shell, so that's why they call it like that.
All right. Now you threw me off with the questions. What's
The
your favorite
book,
TV
the
show
book. Oh, TV
or
show
book?
or
Or
book.
book.
It's going to be The Creative Act, the book by Rick Rubin. I am all about amplifying creativity, and I just love the way that he explains creativity. And I think it'd be actually a really good read, also for educators too, as well.
So how can people talk to future Doc Fonz if they gotta get into that brain, everything that's AI, everything that's tech, talk to them?
Yes, absolutely. You can follow me everywhere on all socials at My EdTech Life. You'll see the handle right there at My EdTech Life. And you can visit our website at www.myedtech.life, where you can check out all our 314 episodes from educators, creators, founders. And I promise you, you will find a little something that you can sprinkle onto what you are already doing great. So please make sure you check us out on our website and follow us on all socials.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. Again, A+ guest, 42 shows, nothing but top notch. They told you about how they started, obstacles they faced, success stories as being a coach from central office to our team members who inspire and educate our scholars. That's what it's all about. This is free PD for all of you. You don't have to get a PO. You don't have to go to your principal to sign it, and then they have to send it to their assistant superintendent, and then they have to send it to the chief financial officer. And along the way, you're gonna get especially with budget cuts now. So just keep that in the back of your mind. All of this, shirts and ties, My EdTech Live, PGP podcast, the Fantastic Four. It's all free PD for all of you. And next week, happy show number 2. I'm excited for all shows. That's another one. Hey, Phil Janikowski, Jorge Valenzuela, Josh Stanford, Katie Kinder, Beth Hoff, lead like a principal. And then after that, there's some people that are going to North Carolina. We got some guests. Some lady called Moreno is going to be there. Darren Pepper, Eric Francis, Don Parker, and David James, the guy putting the conference together. Nothing but the best from all over the United States, and you get it for free. Thank you for being here. Please like the show and share it. Please, if you want to be on the show, reach out to me on all the socials. Not as much as that guy. That guy got me beat right there. But on all the socials, reach out because you bring something to the table. It's crucial that we use your knowledge, that we bring it to this platform and spread it throughout the United States because you are important and iron sharpens iron. Thank you, everybody. Guess say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
Stay on.
Bye.
Have a great week.
We'll see you next week, 6 p.m. And we're changing in April. We're going to 4 p.m. in April, 4 p.m.